Okay, so I am going to open my screen to see. So we'll go. All good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, sir. Very good.
Super.
Your voice is breaking in between, maybe due to the recording.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will, put my video off. Stop video. Okay, I'll get better bandwidth now. Is it okay now?
Clear.
Is the audio okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so see, we have discussed a lot of things as far as JPA is concerned, as far as Hibernate session is concerned. I would like to reiterate the fact that the session object is per thread. So if there are 200 uh, concurrent requests that are executed by your Tomcat server at one point of time, there will be 200 session objects. Each session object is specific to a thread, and that is exactly how there will be 200 different transaction objects, right? Because when I place a request, if I go to Amazon.com and if I do the purchasing, if I have placed some order for 4 products, and if I click on submit over there, and then I check out, and when I click on final checkout, at the same point of time, there are thousands of others who are also placing their orders on Amazon.com. We have all clicked on submit exactly at the same point of time. All of us, end up sending the request to the server. The server will create those, I will execute those requests in different threads. And in each one of the threads, the session object will be different, the transaction will be different. That is the reason why my purchase may fail and the transaction may be rolled back because of some validation error. Whereas at the same point of time, your transaction may get committed because of no validation error and no issues at all. And your purchase goes through very successfully. At the same point of time, concurrently, 2 transactions, one gets committed, the other gets rolled back. And that's how it is, because there are 2 different transactions in 2 different threads and they have got nothing to do with each other. That's how it is. Okay, so that was very important point. Understanding transactions is the heart and core. So Ajmal and the other members in the team, you may not be able to appreciate still the concept of transactions, but if at all not very well implemented, and if at all there is any flaw, it can result into havoc. It can result into huge issues, because there won't be any compilation error, there won't be any runtime error, but it may so happen that your data is like, for example, in a trading company. Just imagine you have a trading company which buys and which sells. So they buy products from manufacturers and they sell to the stockist. So when the selling happens, an invoice is created, and there are several things that are happening. The new invoice gets created in the same transaction. This new invoice gets created, the accounting entry is created, debiting the customer account and crediting the sales account. Then the order against which the invoice is getting created is updated. Why updated? Because it is supposed to be marked as closed. And then fourth thing that is supposed to happen is it updates the inventory. You're getting my point? So if you have 1,000 units in your stock, and if you have sold, say, 100 units, so you have 900 as a balance. That stock must be updated in one. So what are the things that are happening? Invoice getting created in invoice set related tables, inventory getting updated, accounting entry getting created, order getting closed. Just imagine 3 things happen, but the 4th does not happen. You're getting my point? That means the order does not get closed, or all the more worse, the accounting entry is not created. So you have sold goods, but in the accounting system, there is no information that we are supposed to take money from so and so customer. Gone. Right? And in a Hindustan Liver kind of a company, which is a large FMCG company, you can imagine who will keep track. So transactions are extremely important. Someone like Murli, he has been working with it day in and day out. He understands the significance of it. But you all must know, transaction is a very critical thing in any database-oriented application. Is that very clear? Okay. Now, so coming back over here. So we have discussed a lot of things, my dear friends. Now what I'm going to do, I hope you all can all see my screen. Please confirm. Okay, good. And so Ram, you can also see my screen, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Now we are going to talk more about, just a minute. Okay, we are going to talk more about the repository, right? The features of the repository. So you know that because we have inherited training repository from JPA repository, JPA repository in turn is inherited from paging, and paging repository is in turn inherited from CRUD repository. So what does CRUD stand for? Create, read, update, and delete. So you get all the basic functionality of find by ID, get one, find all, and save related functionality all over here. When I say control O, control O or command O, on Mac command O, and in case of your Windows, it is control O. You will get the list of all the functions that are there in that particular component. So you see the save all, find by ID, exist by ID. All of these are the very, very basic functions that one may want to perform on the database. You may want to save covers both update as well as insert, that very well. And then you've got save all, again as good as save, but it is just that multiple entities can be saved in one shot. Find by ID, as we have discussed. Exist by ID is very powerful. Why? Because it just simply fires a select statement by that ID. It does not care to bring the data of all the other columns, and it does not care to populate the state of the training object or whatever the object is. Do not underestimate exist ID. Exist ID will be, if suppose you just want to find out whether a particular record by the primary key exists in the table or not, don't use find by ID. That will be more expensive as compared to exist by ID. Please check, what does find by ID return back to you? It returns back the optional object, which in turn will contain the complete entity object. It can be training, it can be vessel, whatever. Here we are talking about training object. So it will contain the training object, and the training object may have 50 fields. It will fire a select statement for all the columns, select star, by that primary key, where clause with the primary key, get the data, create a new object of class training, and then store the state of that object, and then keep it in the session object. Very clear? In such a case, it's expensive as compared to exist by ID, because exist by ID will fire only and only select statement for that one single column, which is the primary key. And if it exists, it will just return to you true. If it does not exist, it will return to you false. So if you only wanted to check whether that primary key, by that primary key, the row exists or not, only to check that, don't use find by ID. You better use access by ID. That will return to you true or false. That will be tremendously fast. But if you really wanted the object, then yes, you use find by ID. Okay, then find all, very well. Find by ID. Again, find all by ID. What is this? Very powerful. Find all by ID. So suppose I want to find, so see, not knowing something is so very hazardous. Trust me, I myself, in the Avana application itself, Ram, I myself have written an additional function like this: public list, something like this. Okay, but with respect to another entity which is specific to our Avana application, list of training. Okay, and I wrote find by IDs in brackets, list of, okay, integer IDs. I did this, I did this. I said Java list, and here I wrote a custom query. See how bad it is not knowing something, which is out of the box available. This is the fundamental problem with us. We don't know the features that are out of the box available of a given component, and we end up writing our own stuff. So what did I write? I wrote from training. Okay, I'll say T, where T dot training ID in, and I said colon ID, something like this. We will discuss in more detail, this from and all stuff. I did this. Do you think there was a need for me to do that? No, there is something available called find all by ID. What does this mean? I could have at any point of time, so I don't need to do this at all. I will comment this. I don't need to do this at all. If at all I have some handful of training IDs, and if I want all the corresponding objects by that ID, I can just use find all by ID. You see this? I will go to my REST controller over here. I won't execute the whole thing. I will just simply, where am I? Yes, trainings. I'll see this training repo dot find all by IDs. You can see this here. What does this mean? I may have list of integer, I'll say IDs is equal to, I'm saying array list. Okay, maybe the values are actually coming over the API, suppose, but I'm just hard coding over here. I'll say new array list, and I'll say, sorry, I better use arrays dot as list. Okay, and I'll say 1 comma 2 comma, or maybe I say 245 comma 247 and so on, right? Whatever. And here I'll say IDs. You can see this here. What do you think I'm going to get over here? List of training. All trainings is equal to, see this beautiful stuff here. So, see, right, like this. So do I need to reinvent the wheel? I must not reinvent the wheel. You can see this, it's all available. So you could find all by IDs count. If you just simply want to count all, how many rows are there in that particular table? How many trainings do I have in my database without any condition? You can just simply say training report at count, it will give you. Delete by ID, you wanted to delete by ID, you know this very well. Delete a particular object, you have retrieved the object from the database, right? And you have checked something on it, you have performed some operation, and then you finally decide to delete it. So delete in brackets, you will pass the training object. The actual object, that object with whatever the ID of that object is will be deleted. Delete all, again, like find all by ID. Similarly, if you want to delete multiple rows, you can just pass the IDs as a parameter here. Delete all will delete. Correct. So these are the facilities and these are the features that you get in case of your, CRUD repository. And this happens to be the CRUD repository. Why I'm calling this as a CRUD repository? Because it extends from JPA. JPA extends from paging. Paging extends from CRUD. So that means our training repository is also a CRUD repository. Correct? Right. Now, when I say, yeah, we can. Okay. Okay. No, you cannot. If at all it is already committed, how will you be able to retrieve back? So that's what the concept of a transaction is. You perform an update, insert, delete, and whatever you do. Once the transaction is committed, those changes are permanent in the database. You cannot undo it then. Yes, but till the time you do not commit the transaction, you fired an insert, two inserts, three inserts, two, four deletes. Okay. And then before the transaction is committed, you say roll back. You will get all the data. I mean, the state of that particular database will be as same as it was before you started the transaction. Okay, so that's how it is. Okay, so then what is special in JPA repository? Okay, this JPA repository, as you can see over here, okay, it has got all of these overloaded functions. You can see it has got get one over here. You can see this get one was not there in CRUD repository, right? So get one is over here, and then you've got find by all iterable, delete all. These are the additional things. As I said, save and flush. Now we understand what does this mean. You don't need an entity manager to explicitly call flush. The moment you say save and flush and provide a property as a, the object is a parameter, either an update or insert will be, fired depending on, and it will automatically flush immediately. You got that, Ram?
Yeah,
Save and flush. Yeah, it will automatically. You don't have to take entity manager and flush explicitly. And then get one, we have discussed all. Example again, I will take it up separately. And then find by all by ID and stuff. This is just simply overridden methods over here. Find all, sort. That means you can specify the sort mechanism. So it will find all the rows. It will fire a select statement. The select statement, when fired, it will not have an order by clause. I repeat, it will not have an order by clause. That means ordering will not happen at the database level. You must try avoiding order by as much as possible on the database side, as much as possible. Because doing it on the Java side will be faster as compared to doing it on the database side, unless you have an index on the database. So if you want to find all, and if you have got some index over there, then it's a different thing. Otherwise, okay. So this is how it is. And then with this, it extends from paging and sorting repository. Now this is super. Why? Because here you've got pageable. You can see this find all, sort, and you've got pageable as well. Pageable is something, pageable is actually an interface. Pageable is what? An interface. But you know what? How do I create an object of some class that implements pageable? So I did explain that to you all yesterday. Whenever you want something like pageable, you can always say, training repo dot find all, and you can see this pageable option here. So when I say, when I use this one, I can always do page request dot off. Correct? Which page? I'll say first page. What is the size of the page? I'll say 10. That means I want pagination of 10, 10, 10, 10 pages. What will this return back? Not the list. It will return back page of training. Okay, so please note, this will not return back what? This will not return back the list. It will return back what? Trainings page. And this trainings page dot, you will find there is something called get content, which will in turn return those 10 training objects. You can see that list of training. Get content, list of training. That will return to you the the 10 rows that are retrieved on that page, of that particular page, the first page. You got it? That's how it is. Okay. Then has content will return to you whether that page has content or not, and there are many other options here. One thing I would like to bring to your notice, please make note of this very nicely. I repeat, please make note of this very nicely, what I'm explaining next. Okay, right. Now, what is that next thing? Let me, put my video on. Let me check. Let me know if my voice is, cracking or anything, so that I can once again put the video off.
Just Akib, the first function which we use, that is find all. Actually, it was returning. It was not returning an option. It was returning the object directly.
No, find all. You're saying find all was returning the list.
List. Right. List of training.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, if there's a table which doesn't have any, it's a new table, for example, it doesn't have any row. In that particular case, it will raise the same exception, not found exception.
No. Finder methods, which is other than by the primary key, will never ever raise any exception. It is just that the list will be empty. So there will be a trainings page here like this, dot get content right over here will be empty. Dot is empty. You can always check.
Okay.
Right? And not only that,
has content, both can be used.
Yeah. Correct. So if you want has content, then you can directly say on trainings page dot has content. This is better. This is a better way of doing it. On the trainings page, right? On a page object. Yeah. And if at all you had used something like this, list of training, and I'll say all trainings is equal to, I'll say training repo. Suppose for some reason you did not want pagination, then you say find all. So there is no pagination over here. You will directly get the list. In such a case, you can say all training start. You can say get content. Is empty.
Okay.
Right? Which will tell you whether is empty is also okay, or else you can also say size is greater than 0. Right?
Okay.
If it is greater than 0, that means there is data.
Right.
Right? You got that?
Clear.
Okay. Now, correct. Super. Now, see, I wanted to share this with you. Very critical. More often than not, okay, or at least let me use a moderate statement here. Usually what happens is that for good reasons, you do not want to return the training object back to your, in the response. You want to return back the page of not training, but training view. And the training view happens to be, you remember we talked about value objects? So I'll say a class and I'll say training view. And this training view will have exactly the same properties that the training class has. So I will just simply copy paste, everything here as it is. Just that this is not an entity class. This is just a plain value object. It is not a bean. It is not an entity. It's a value object. Why do we do this value object? Is, simple example. I wanted to return a training object back, but the training definitely has a trainer. Right? And I will have something like private integer training ID, but my, trainer ID. But my user interface says I want the name also of the trainer. So I will say private string. I'll say trainer name. Now you see, this is the synthetic property over here. Synthetic, made up. Otherwise in training, You can see this in training. I cannot go ahead and write over here. That will be really odd. You know, as a private string, the name of the trainer. Then in that case, there is no end to it, right? I will have everything over here. And not only that, it will complain. It will say that there is no corresponding column in the table called training. I will have one thing over here. Yes, private integer. I will have trainer ID here. That's fine. That is okay. But I will not have the name of the trainer because this is exactly something that maps to what? Table in the database. Got that? So coming back over here, I will have trainer name. I may have a lot of other things over here. Maybe I also have private string, and I do have something like say list of say training, or this is a training, right? I'll say trainer. Okay, all trainers that take this training. Suppose I'm just giving an example. Give you the list of all the other trainers that is taking this training. I don't have a trainer class over here. Otherwise, it would have. You getting what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this is a value object. So in such a case, you may want to convert this training. What is supposed to be sent back is what? Trainer. Sorry, training VO, not the training. How do I do that? See this. I'll say page of training VO. Okay, and I'll say training VO page is equal to, see how simple this is. I'll say trainings page. Okay, dot. I'll say map. Map is always to what? Modify the object. I'll say map, and each time it runs, it iterates through. I repeat, each time it iterates through each, because this page is actually the page of training. So suppose there are 10 trainings, it will iterate through all the 10 trainings. One time the first training, second time the second training, and so on. So this X represents that training object. What will I do now? I will say training VO. Okay, VO is equal to new training VO. And after that, I'll say VO dot set long title X dot get long title. You getting it?
Yep.
VO dot set short title X dot get short title. But this is very tedious. If I have 10 properties, then 10 times. I will not do this. I will say bean utils dot properties. This one, the one which is in org.springframework.beans. I'll say dot copy properties, and I will say what is the source. The source is supposed to be X, and what is the target? VO. That means it will copy all the value of, needless to say that the name of the properties must be same in both the class.
Right.
If the property name is not the same, it will not copy. So it will copy all the properties of X, value of the properties into VO. So in one line, the job is done. I must, of course, return what back from here? VO, right? VO happens to be an object of which class? Training VO. You can see this. And then I just put a semicolon here. That's it. No compilation error. Now from here onwards, and what will I return back? I will return back trainings VO page. So what goes to my server? Right? And where will I write all of this kind of logic? Usually in the business service class. Now, once I have the VO object over here, I can fire a service. I will use a DAO for trainer class. Okay, and I'll say not training, trainer report dot find by ID. What will I get? Find by ID. I'll say VO dot get trainer ID. You getting my point? See, and then I get what? The trainer object, and I will, by the trainer object, I will say VO dot set training ID. Okay, I did not. I did write this, but I did not. Source generate methods. Select all. Generate. It's done. I come back over here. I'll say VO dot set trainer name, and that set trainer name will be what? When I say trainer repo dot find by ID, VO dot get trainer ID, I get the trainer object, and from the trainer object, I will get the name of the trainer object, right? I'll say trainer dot get name. This is what I'll fire. Of course, it won't compile because I don't have a trainer class and stuff and all. And then I return a VO back. So VO gets populated. You got the point? So I get the list of the training VOs, also having the name of the trainer. Ram, any questions here? Is
Yeah,
that clear?
definitely I have. So
Yeah,
as we did, like I'll take an example of booking and containers. So
sure.
wherein it will be, say for example, in shipment booking, when I have to
Hmm.
return the container also as a nested object.
Yes.
So in that particular case, the shipment object I'll get from the
Yes.
first get by ID.
Yes.
Then in the view object, definitely I must be having a nested object of containers also.
Yes.
So for getting that container values, again, I'll do the same thing. I'll create a VO. The VO will be there for definitely container.
Yes.
Or I'll get, again, I can copy whatever
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. If there are two different classes are different, and you create objects of those two respective classes, I mean, you create objects of these two respective classes, and then, but the properties are same, you can always use being utils properties and put it, all right, and you can do that, right? And I'll tell you what, your maximum amount of effort will exactly go into doing these kind of things. That's what you're doing. What else you're doing in a business application? When it comes to saving, you're saving it into multiple tables. When it comes to retrieving, you are retrieving from multiple tables. You create a data structure. What do you create? You create a data structure. The data structure happens to be the structure happens to be your own structure, your own classes. You create the data structure and then you send it back in the response. That's the game. And the additional game is that at the time of saving, at the time of updating different tables, there are validations that you need to perform. You got it? So it's all about at the time of saving, getting the request object, getting the data, putting the data into various different tables, but after performing validations. If validation fails, you throw a response error back. But in case of retrieving, you are supposed to retrieve all the data from various different tables, and you must learn the art, you must know the art of designing your classes, your model classes, your value objects, so that you can read through your model classes, you can read the data through repository, and then you populate your value objects and appropriately and send it back. As he rightly said, that suppose you've got a shipment booking and there is a related shipment container, what you need to send back is shipment booking along with the containers and stuff. So that's what the effort is. That's it. So Ajmal, please note this very carefully. Um, uh, as we proceed further, I did mention this earlier also. Ram will lead you all. You getting my point? Because as far as business knowledge is concerned, business domain knowledge is concerned, that means, in other words, what is supposed to be done, he knows better than I and Shivani, right? He knows better than us. But when it comes to implementing, yes, he will also start writing code now. He is doing it, but few months down the line, by the time you also get fantastic, trained very well. In fact, not necessary. We may wait till that amount of time. He may ask you to do something. He will start giving you tasks, right? He will start giving you tasks. Let it take, maybe instead of 2 hours, let it take 5 hours, no problem. But then you can discuss and then he can tell you. And then when you're both have finished discussing, you can come back to me saying that these are the questions we have now. This is where we are stuck. What is the right way of doing it? I give you the inputs over there, then you are ready for the next cycle. That makes sense, Ram?
Yeah, I agree. Very.
Yeah, super, right? So just understand, the bulk of the work is supposed to be done by you and Tufail Ajmal. That is what you're supposed to do. Is that very clear? Because I want him to do lot many other things for which the kind of knowledge that is needed and the experience that is needed he has, and you will take some more time to gain that experience to do it all on your own. So you better get into hardcore coding stuff. He will also be coding, but at the same point of time, we will utilize his skills and his experience and his time in a more fruitful way. You're getting what I'm saying, right? So get geared up. Okay. Right. So coming back over here, this is how this, this is what I want to do. Okay. One important thing, while asking that question, Ram, you mentioned that I'll say find by ID. Remember, with find by ID, you will not get a page. You'll get one object, right? And there also you can have one object and you may have another object created of another class, and you can use bean utils.copy properties. But this map is a function specially of a page.
Okay.
Okay. Right. Okay. Then I close this and I close this. So I talked about that. Okay. Now I will go back here. So you see page request dot off, correct? Now there is another thing over here. Page request dot off, or else I can also say training repo dot find all. You can see this. There is something called okay, so there is pageable over here. Page request dot Okay, very good. You can see this. I have already explained the first. See, this is called overloading of function. Whenever you see a function with different parameters, right? Whenever you see a
Yes.
function with different parameters, it is called overloading of function. So you see there is an overloaded function over here which takes 3 parameters. So the first function I have already explained to you, which takes 2 parameters. What is that? Int page and int size. What is the page number and what is the size of that page? Second is what? Int page, int size, and what? Sort. Right? This is superb. Now, when I say sort, what does this mean? I say 1 and I say 10. You know this very well. First page of 10 records. Now, I'll say sort. Okay. You can see this org.springframework.data.domain. I will say by over here. There are again there are overloaded methods. You can explore them in detail later. I will say by, I will say, for example, in training, you've got short title. Okay. Now, you know what this will do? This will bring those 10 records, but sorted by short title. See, but this sorting will happen where?
On the Spring
On Java side. On the Java side. Yes, yes, you're right in Spring Container. Very correct. And on Java side, this sorting is not going to happen there in your database side, right? It won't fire a database order by. Hopefully. How will you check this? If whether this is really firing order by or not? How will you check this? Because we've got JPA.SQL show SQL true. You will get the SQL statement over there, right? You can check it out, right? I don't think it fires an order by over there. It doesn't do that. It does the sorting here. Okay, so that's how it is. So sorting also, I have covered find all and page request that sorting all and all. Now I would like to, see, this is what I'm now explaining is not necessarily, in JPA only. Can't I do this CRUD repository? I can do this also, right?
Yes.
Right? But see, when I do this, I will get all the functionality of CRUD repository directly.
Yes.
All of this functionality. I will not get the functionality of JPA, which extends, which provides the extension. And that is the reason why I started getting error over here with page request and all. Why? Because you're getting what I'm saying?
Right.
You don't get all of those features at all. Correct? So you better do what? You extend from JPA repository, right? That's how it is. Okay. Now, you have a question, Ajmal? Sure. Mm-hmm. See, whenever a request object is created and the Hibernate component comes into picture, it creates a Hibernate session object. Will it create multiple Hibernate session objects per request? No. No. Per request. See, my question is this. Will it create multiple session objects per request? No. I said session object, one session object per request. That's what one session object, one request. That means one session object per request. So in that request, you may fire hundreds of select statements and hundreds of insert and update. All of that will be there in that one single session object. Session object is one per request. Another request, another session object. One request, in that one request. So see, tell me one thing. When I land over here, this is one request that will start executing. From here, I may fire a training report or find all. I say find by ID. I may say save, insert. All of that is happening over here in that same request. So how many session objects? One session object per request, and per request is one thread. You remember? Okay. So what is your question? It will use, because all of those the finder method that you execute, and that finder method results into creating of objects. All of those objects will be there in Hibernate session. It will be there for sure. So even if there are 200 objects retrieved, 200 objects will be there in Hibernate session. Yes, it is, because page is just a Java object, which in turn contains what? All the training objects, which maps to the corresponding rows in the table in the database. So it will be there, right? It's mapped. But the moment the select is fired and it's done, the connection object may go back into the connection pool. No, in case of one request, that connection object is attached to the session object, and there is one single transaction happening over there, assuming that it is a transactional stuff. You getting? That's how it is. Okay. Don't worry. When you start working on this, and remember one thing. See, there is yet another topic. Once this is done, maybe maybe in this week or next week, because this week today it's Wednesday. Today the training that I'm doing is doing. Then I need to start, my own learning work. So I will be spending next 3-4 days in that, So I will give you all sufficient work to do throughout the week. And next week again we will resume our training on Monday, and we will definitely talk about test cases. What are we going to talk about? Test cases. Ram, you must be in with your team. Your main job will be to get the test cases written in such a way that our code that we have written is rock solid, watertight. Correct?
Yep.
There must not be any bug. And you know what? See, if all of our skills, all of our knowledge, all the pride that we carry about our knowledge is meaningful only and only when we deploy applications to our customer, which thrills them, right?
100%
Just,
correct.
So we do not want frustrated customer. Trust me, we are very well off, earning whatever we are earning. You're getting what I'm saying. Our skills is our pride, and that pride goes down the drain when there are silly, it happens. Again, it is not possible, I mean, zero defect. Yes, we will try for it for zero defect, but still it may happen. It's fine. But then we must tie our camel and then trust in God. If we don't tie our camel, that will not work. So tying our camel means what? We will write our test cases and we will do testing to the best of our ability. After that, if there is any bug, no problem. We are after all humans. You getting what I'm saying? Just few days back, around few days back, what Prabhakar mentioned, on the call, he said that, this BL printing, the new thing that we have deployed, he was telling Shivani, saying that, Shivani, this must be again, because the discussion that was happening was that whether it should be a desktop-based application or a web-based application. We were proposing desktop-based application for some reasons, for printing stuff and all, but he said no, it must be web-based. So during that discussion, he made a statement. He said, this new software, this BL printing must be also as same as the customer portal with zero maintenance. That's so, we were so proud, we were so happy that he mentioned that, and really it is a zero maintenance. All the maintenance work also that maintenance work comes actually because of the data team, data related, and especially because now Ram is not there, so they are unable to handle it. So data related queries come, actually software related queries hardly come. Correct. So that's how it is. There are so we must be writing test cases. We will learn how to write test cases. Test cases are also programs. What are test cases? They are programs. We write programs to test our programs. You getting it? We will learn how to write our, test cases, how to write programs, which will in turn test the business programs, the business logic, the business application that we have written. And when that is written, how does it help? It helps in regression testing. See, what happens here is that, I mean, to someone like Ram, I don't need to explain in detail, but for you, listen to this. When the software goes in production, they ask for some changes, there is change request, this, that. You make a change. That change works fantastic, but because of that change, something else goes wrong. With test cases, you will be able to find that. You will be able to find that because of your new code that you have added, because of that additional code that you have added today, is there anything else that you had written earlier which is breaking? You will be able to test that with test cases. We will write awesome test cases, right? Writing test cases is an art, right? So we will learn that, right? So that makes your knowledge of software development complete when you write test cases, correct? That's how it is. Okay, so coming back
one
to
more
the
additional point, maybe
sure.
On terms of that list which we prepared yesterday on the topics which we may have to go. That is entity manager, then custom finder method. Maybe security point we have to add in this. Right.
Yeah. So security is something, which I would, it doesn't fall into this category, but yes, I will talk about security, and it is the most sophisticated security that is currently available in the in the industry today, OR 2.0. And you will be happy to know that I have personally implemented that entire thing end to end, and that is our own authorization server, which works on token-based authentication. So this is a different subject matter altogether. Now this works too whether you have a an application which is database oriented or no database oriented. So token based authentication for scalability, that's the way to go. And I will take that up separately, and I will definitely, Ram, I will take it up in
Yeah,
detail.
sure,
Don't worry.
sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
for sure, definitely. Okay, so coming back over here, so you see this now page stuff and all, and training repository and JPA repository and stuff and all. So this is what we were talking about. And yeah, correct. So, so anything else? Yes, correct.
One
That's it.
more thing,
Yeah, sure.
maybe like find all, which you said here, training report or find all. This will not do in real life application, because definitely it is going to pull up all the reports from the table. If you do
Super,
this for table, definitely the application is going to hang.
super, super. Ajmal, see, Ajmal is sharing the screen through our local network. He can see my entire screen, but he is not on the call. Okay, so let me explain that to you, Ajmal. What he just said is that you see, find all. We are learning things and we are using this, and we have got tables in our, dev environment, or on our local machine with some 50, 60 records. It's okay to, for the sake of learning. In real life, you will never find all. You will never find all. There are millions of records in the table. It will retrieve all that. Your machine will hang, server will hang, network will hang, that database will hang. Everyone else in the application, I mean, those who are using the application will get a lag over there. You will never do that in this real life, right? You will never ever do that. Even find all with page request, you will not do. There is no such use case. Your end user will never say, okay, I have 1 million records in the database. Give me 10 records. I'm going to sit here for the whole day and I'm going to see. Doesn't make sense, right? It will always be find by some of the other condition. And that's exactly what you have over here. You can see this training repo dot, you can see find all, and there is something called example over here. You can see this example, right? This is something which helps you to actually search, right, with handful of data. This also must be used very carefully. Very carefully. Why? Because there may be 10 columns in the table, and correspondingly there will be 10 properties. This example allows you to search by any property, and it automatically understands where to attach a and or and all. I will show that. I will give you a good example of that. But then you may not have an index on those columns in the table, and if there are million records over there, you will have it. Forget about million. Even if there is even if there is 1 lakh row, right, you'll have it. If there is no index on the column which is included in the where clause, you're headed for disaster, right? It will be very slow. Atak hi jayega udhar. Got that? So that also you've got to be very careful. Hence, I'm not a big fan of this example. Okay, in some cases I may use it, but then otherwise not. Okay, and many a times, we end up writing our own custom queries for it. I'm coming to it in a moment. Right? So Ram, I have conveyed that point to Ajmal. So you will not, you've got to be very careful while using finder methods. It shouldn't hamper the performance. Okay. Coming back over here. Now see this. But I mean, just for the sake of, like, we have got a table called system parameters, Ajmal, which contains hardly, 6, 7 rows. There you find any kind of a finder on any column, that's fine. Hardly any rows, no problem. Okay, so coming back over here. So, okay. Now, this is also had come. This is also something that had come to my mind, and I wanted to share this. One of the projects that I did, we used to do. Now, off late, we did not receive any such requests. But then, some time back, I used to do a lot of projects which were performance tuning projects. That means people used to call me for 2 days, 3 days. Hyderabad, Bangalore. I used to go there, and what was the job? To tune the performance. So one of such project in one such assignments, there was a problem. They were using exactly something like this JPA Hibernate and stuff. And they were, Ram, they were doing end of the day process. They were executing EOD process. And through that EOD process, they were firing some business services, which in turn was firing, using DAO and using repository. They used to get all the data, huge amount of data from the database and do processing work. Okay, they were taking data from various different tables and then processing stuff, and it was tremendously slow, tremendously slow. Why? Because each time you fire a find by ID, also consider you fired a find by ID or a find by whatever. What will it do? It will create a corresponding object in that in your Java. Each object that you create in Java occupies memory. There were millions of objects that were thrown in memory. You're getting what I'm saying? It used to bring down the performance of Java application itself, that EOD process. EOD process is not a transactional process. There is no transaction happening over there. Okay, I mean transaction in the sense it's not an online transaction processing system. There are transactions there also in the EOD process. You may update 3-4 tables and you may want to include it in the transaction, but then you don't need Hibernate there. You would in fact write plain JDBC template. You will use JDBC templates. We will discuss some other day what is a JDBC template, and fire, or maybe use entity manager over here and fire direct update, insert, deletes. Get the data, process that data in a way wherein you will reduce the number of objects that are created. And if suppose performance is of paramount importance, you are performing some task which is kind of a heavy task on the database. You want to fire a lot of select and then inserts and then updates and stuff and all, and all that you do is the part of one single unit, and still you want extremely good performance. Ram knows very well stored procedures. We will write a procedure which will be stored where? In the database, and just invoke that procedure from here. What is it we're going to do? From Java, we're going to just simply invoke the procedure. So all of that select, update, insert, deletes are happening where? In the stored procedure, where it is happening? On the database side. That will be tremendously fast as compared to bringing all the data here and then executing it. So where to use what is the, so who decides where to use what? When to use Hibernate, where to use Hibernate, when to use messaging service, when to use stored procedures, where what will be used is the job of an architect. Repeat, whose job it is? It is the job of an architect, Ajmal. You're getting it? In our team, Ram will be soon playing the role of an architect. As he keeps on getting more and more experience on this technology, this set of technologies, he becomes an architect. He will decide. He will tell you. Then you, with a blind eye, you use Hibernate or you use stored procedure, whatever it tells you. That's the way. You're getting my point. That's why these are key decisions to be taken, isn't it? Okay. So coming back over here, just wanted to share that where Hibernate does not really work. Okay, so coming back here now, see, it's 11:34. I'm going to leave at around 11:55, and I think still we have sufficient time here. So what if you want to have additional finder methods? For example, I want to search by short title. You know how simple this is? I'll say public list. I have to decide whatever finder I'm writing. If it's a primary key, you don't need to, because find by ID is already available. If it is find by something else, which is unique column in the table, I repeat, unique column in the table, you can always create an index and you can mark it as unique. That means the value will not be repeated. It can be null, but it cannot be repeated. If that is the case, then again, you will not have list here. You will write optional. You getting my point? But if suppose, so I'll say optional training. Okay. And see how I'm writing this. I'll say optional training, and I'll say find by, I'm writing some column. Which column? I'm not, some column. It can be any column. Some column which is unique. You're getting what I'm saying? There is no such column actually. I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say. Okay. And string or whatever the data type is, I'll say column value. If this is what you write, it will search for a column with this name in the table. Right? And it will fire a select statement, and it will expect how many values to come back. Since I have given optional over here, it will expect only one row to be returned back. If at all it returns more than one row, it will throw an exception. You got it, Ram?
Clear.
Right? Okay, so there is no such thing. I will just, okay. But if suppose like short title, I may have short titles, similar short titles for multiple trainings. So I'll say public, I'll say list, and I will say training. Okay. Or else let me do this find by I find by trainer ID. Okay, let me go to SQL Pro. Okay, let me go to the database. Let me go to trainer. You see, I do have a training over here. You can see this training here, and then you can see the structure. I do have something called trainer ID. Here it is, trainer profile ID. That means who's the trainer of this particular training? Trainer profile ID. Okay, I'll just copy paste over here. Okay, and then I go here, trainer profile. So what will I write? As I find by trainer profile ID, I will make T as capital. Why? Because in training, you can see there is something. Okay, I do not have that entire training table. I have not created all the properties over here, but otherwise I will have something like this, trainer profile ID here, like this. Okay, I will go back here. It will definitely. Okay, I'll just go back and I'll say source setter getter methods, and I'll say select all, and I'll say generate. Okay, so I've got trainer profile ID here. Now, see this once again, I'll tell you. Your property names will always start with lowercase. I repeat, property names will always start with lowercase. Function names will always start with lowercase. Class names will always start with an uppercase. Okay, so here, this trainer profile ID, the name of my finder must be exactly this, but T with capital. Okay, and I'll say find by, like this. I'll just attach a find by as the prefix, and I'll say integer. I'll say trainer profile ID. That's it, like this. The name of this can be anything, but this is how. You know what? It will automatically generate a select statement. When I invoke this trainer repository dot find by trainer profile ID, I don't need to write implementation of this. It understands that trainer profile ID is one of the properties, and that property is mapped to the column in the table. It will know how to construct the, it will know how to construct what? The select statement. It will get all the records, and because there can be multiple trainings by the same trainer profile ID, isn't it? One trainer can have multiple trainings. So you will have a list here. Correct. You got this, Ram? Any questions?
So this is clear.
Okay. Now you can see this. I will go to structure here, and then you can see this. There is something called friendly URL. You can see this friendly URL. Now I cannot get. I cannot double click. Okay, here it is. Here it is. You can see this sequence and index is so and so. Okay. Non-unique. See, non-unique is one means it is true. Non-unique, it is not unique. But you can see this UK underscore friendly URL. What is this? 0. Non-unique is 0. That means non-unique is false. That means it is unique. There cannot be two. There cannot be two rows with the same friendly URL. It is impossible. You got what I'm saying? There cannot be two rows in the database with the same friendly URL. You got that? So see this, I have got content over here. I have got core Java as the friendly URL. I copy this and I put it over here. I hit the enter key. It says duplicate entry core Java for UK friendly URL. You got, Ajmal, what it means by unique key? Okay, that's how it is. I'll say discard changes, right? That's how it is. So if something like this, I know very well that if I have to retrieve by friendly URL, it will definitely be what? One row. That means how will I write that? I'll say, okay, why should I comment this? I will keep it. It's a valid thing. I'll say public. I'll say optional. I'll say training. I won't say list. And I'll say find by. I'll say training. What is the name? Friendly URL, right? So I'll say friendly URL. Okay. Friendly URL. And I'll say string because it's a string, right? I'll say friendly URL. Needless to say that you must have this field in which class? Yes, superb. In the model class, I'll say private string friendly URL. I'll click right mouse button, source and generate setter getter methods, and I'll say select all and then generate. Got this? Correct? That's how it is. So see, because I know now when I fire this training report or find by friendly URL, I will get an optional is present will return to me true. If at all there is a row with that friendly URL, it will return to me false. Very simple, as simple as this. Now, finally, before
I mean,
I just
first case here F should be in caps. Find by friendly URL.
Ref means, sorry, ref.
Friendly URL. F should be in caps, right?
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Super, super. Very nice. It must be in caps, otherwise it will fail. Okay? Very good, very good. That naming convention must be followed for it to understand the property name. Okay, now it is quite possible that you may have a good reason, to say that I want list of all the training, okay, and whatever name now you want to give, whatever name. Okay, no, wait, let me first close this. Find by, I can very well say trainer profile ID, and it understands and A and D. It understands and I don't know which column should I pick up. Okay, and I'll say short title. Okay, so what will this do? Now there are how many columns over here? Trainer profile ID and short title. So I will have integer trainer profile ID comma string short title like this. You know what will this do? It will fire a select statement with a where clause, and in the where clause it will say trainer profile ID is equal to whatever is passed as a parameter, and the short title is equal to whatever is passed as parameter. It's so very smart. It's so very smart. Similarly, but suppose you have, for some good reasons, you say, okay, I'm going to give my own name, or whatever name you want to give. I'll say find by I'm just writing. You must always have. Okay, I'll say find by trainer profile ID, and this is no, find by trainer profile ID. Okay, total corporate trainings. For that particular training, the total corporate trainings, there is something over here. So I'll just find a trainer profile ID, though this also can be done, by appropriate naming, but just in order to explain to you, uh, 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 find by and corporate training, suppose. Okay, now you know what I say, integer, and I'll say, okay, let me ID, find by trainer profile ID who has done more than 50 trainings. Okay, see the function here. Now you know what I'm going to do. I'll say @query. I want to have my own custom query. @query. You can see this JPA repository. I'll say query. Now I can have my own statement over here. And what statement? Not necessarily the SQL statement, but JQL statement, JPA QL, Java Persistence API Query Language, in which I will start with from. I don't need to say select. I'll say from. Here, I'm not referring to the name of the table. I'm referring to the name of the class. What am I referring to? The name of the class. Whatever is the name of the class, I'm referring to the name of the class. Okay. Then I'll say T or any character over here. Any character, not as also necessarily one character. It can be training also like this. Or I've got the habit of using one character T. What does this mean? I'm saying from the object, from the class training, and the object is T. All right. And then I'll say where T dot trainer profile ID. Now again, this is what? Nothing but the property in the training, right? And this is the property in this training, right? So this must be exactly the property. T dot training is equal to, I can refer to any parameter over here using colon. I'll say colon trainer profile ID. I'll say and what will I do? And I'll say T dot, I'll say, what was the name of that column? Total corporate trainings. Assuming that I do have over here what? Yes, very good. I'll say integer total corporate trainings. Okay, and I'll say private over here. Okay, needless to say that I must have my source and segregator methods, and then select all, and then generate over here. Okay, I go back here, and you know what I'll say? Total corporate trainings greater than, I'll say 50. You got that? Now what will it do? It will generate a select statement based on this, and it will not try to create its own select statement. It will create its own select statement, but based on what? Based on it. You getting it? That's how it is. That's how it is. Beautiful stuff. Okay. Not only that, you can also have now a lot of things over here. You can see this. No. There is something called query hints, and those query hints can be used. It's for counting and stuff and all. Okay. Anyway, we'll see that later. But the query hints are also there, which is very powerful. So now what I'll do is I will leave you all with this. All right. And there is a document, because whatever I'm going to explain over here, trust me, it does not, after all of this discussion that we have done, you really do not need so much of explanation here now. It's just a matter of going through the documentation, and which is already shared with us. Okay, as you can see, we have this document shared with us. You can see this is already shared, and this has everything. So don't worry about this dependency and stuff and all. We have already done this, and you must start with, don't worry about all of this also. This is already done. Okay, and persistence, saving entities and stuff and all, that's okay. Query criteria. You can see this from here. So query creation, this is what you need to go through. See, this is the repository that we have, isn't it? Okay, and then you have, and let's keep JPA repository. Let's keep our own JPA repository, and then the rest of the things is like, all of this, or you can see this is what you're supposed to go through. You got the point? This is what you're supposed to go through. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually give you the same table that same database that I have. You have MySQL installed, right, Ram, on your machine?
Yes, I have. Yep.
Oh, okay, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zip it up, and I give you that. You just simply import that MySQL database onto your system. So because it has got all of these columns that are there are many columns, and there is lot of meaningful data in the training table. So you will be able to, dirty your hands with exactly all of this that is over here. You will be able to write your own. See this sorting for sorting, or see this, right? Okay, and sort. And then the sort object is, how to create a sort object. Sort dot by. There are 3 overloaded methods. I've shown you only one. There are other two also that you must. In short, I want you to be expert on. See, saving is not a big deal here. You need to pass the object and say dot save. Usme aur kya kar sakte hain, right? But when it comes to retrieving the data, it's huge. You may want to retrieve data in various different ways, on various different columns with and clause, or clause and stuff. You must be very, very comfortable with this. You can see this here. This is also one of the styles. I'll say question mark 1%. What does this mean? Question mark 1 will represent the first parameter. Yeah, the position of the parameter. Okay, that's how it is. Okay, so I want you to please spend. So there are 2 things after this call that I'm doing. I am sharing with you all that entire database immediately. You import that, and please master your JPA for the whole day today. You must be so very comfortable that you must be able to. So this is the style. You may master, but still there is a limit to what you can do today in one day. Correct? Whatever you can do in one day, finish it off as much as possible. If you have any questions, keep those questions ready. But otherwise, complete today. Tomorrow, don't continue with this. I will give you the task for tomorrow to all of you, right? I will give you a task for tomorrow. Don't continue with this, because you may still be left out with certain things, which is okay. You know what? Beyond this, you will be learning on project, right? And the reality of this industry is that you always learn at the cost of your client. Right, Ram?
Absolutely right.
So the first project in a particular technology that you do for your first client, that poor client, you will be learning at his cost. But this is the
This is
reality.
true, actually. Even this
true.
Birlasoft is doing the same thing, and everyone knows about
Yeah, yes, absolutely. See, there is a call from whom. You see this? There is a call. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I'm seeing. Yeah.
Call from Prabhakar. No, not screen. See this?
Acha. Okay. Yeah.
I am not replying to him. अभी मेरा उसके साथ चल रहा है. Anyway, don't worry, I'll handle that. Okay, so what I'm saying is, please go through this JPA. Absolutely, go through this JPA.
Sure.
And full day, get into it, because this is what you will be doing. Yeah, day out. retrieving data from various different sources and creating the data systems out of it. So at least how to retrieve the data using JPA, that you must be crystal clear. Okay, so it's 11:51. Okay, and one last thing that I would like to bring to your notice very quickly is this. Sorry, Spring Tool Suite. I will appreciate if you just pick up training. I'll go very fast on this. You see, what I can do, @auto-wired, entity manager, entity manager, EM. Now this entity manager is supremely powerful. Okay, and I'll say whatever the method is. हाँ मम्मी मैं हेलो अस्सलाम वालेकुम मम्मी हेलो मैं बस 5 मिनट में निकल रहा हूँ यहाँ से मैं फोन करूँ तभी नीचे उतरना हाँ बस निकल रहा हूँ मेरा हो गया हाँ हाँ चल okay see this I can do wonders with this entity manager. When you use entity managers you are bypassing repository. I repeat, when you are using entity manager you are bypassing repository. If you want, if time permits Ram, for you I believe time will permit, you can get into entity manager, just wire it up and say em dot. You can do super things. You can see this, create native query. This is the playground of Ram. Create native query. Now any query that is possibly that can be possibly executed from your SQL developer console on Oracle can be executed from here. Period. It can be executed. So if I say select star from training, this is not JQL. This is what? Direct SQL. And what you get over here is actually a query object. Q is equal to. Okay, this is what you get. Again, the query object. And then how do you get it? You say query dot, you say query dot, sorry. Okay, I've taken the wrong, oh no, I've taken the right. Oh, sorry. I'll say dot, I'll say execute, right? Or else I'll say execute equals, get flush mode, get max result. I'll say get result list. Yes, get result list is what I'm going to do. So here I'm going to get not the query, but the, the entire, yeah, sorry, no, it's a query only. I'm sorry. Why am I getting this? Cannot convert query to, okay. I have imported the wrong. So you can see this, I must import this query. Okay, this query, right, from the persistency. Okay, now no errors. Now I'll say Q dot, I'll say return, or I'll say result list. You can see this will give me the list. This will give me the list. Now, what kind of list it gives you, and we'll discuss that later. But in short, I can also fire an update over here, an insert update or anything. Then in that case, I'll say Q dot, I'll just simply say execute update. It will fire that update or insert. Right? You can also set parameters. You can say Q dot set. You can see this parameter here. So you can have parameters here and so on. Right? So Ram, when I show you the usage of this in our existing application and one application, you will immediately be able to pick it up. So don't worry about that. Okay? Right? Okay. Chal. Take care then. Okay. Yeah. So I'm stopping my this over here. I am concluding my session here. So for the whole day, what is it that you are supposed to do? Just pounce on JPA query, retrieve, finder, and find that. Okay, friends. Okay. The whole day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right, Ram? Thanks.
Yes.
Bye-bye. Thanks.